Hey, the Demon Driver here, and in my hands right here is an average regular pool noodle, okay, that you find at any toy store or anywhere in the United States or the world. It's made of a kind of a porous foam, and I'm going to show you how to take this and build it into a scratch-built 3D trainer, my own personal design that I call the Demon Claw. And this is this aircraft right here. This is fully scratch built. In about 1 to 2 hours, I'm going to show you how to take this and turn it into this in about 1 to 2 hours. That's it. And we'll get rocking. So in this video, I'm going to build this entire plane from beginning to end and maiden it and fly it towards the end of the video. So watch the whole video if you want to learn how to build a really easy 3D trainer that's basically almost indestructible. Okay, very easy to build. You probably build the whole thing for maybe between $30 and $50. Have your own scratch-built plane. You don't need plans. Just follow me along in this build. Get yourself a pool noodle. Get some carbon fiber rods. Get some Depron or dollar store foam, and let's get rocking. This is really easy. This is a fun build. This is what you've been waiting for on this channel for 4 years, almost 5 years. You've seen me build all these airliners, but they take years, a year to build, 6 months, whatever. But this takes an afternoon, an hour, 2 hours, and you have yourself your own scratch-built 3D airplane. Okay? So this is the Demon Claw. You know, the plans are free. This whole video is for you. Build along with me. It's really easy. And then at the end of the video, for a treat, we're going to actually maiden this thing and fly it. And I'm going to go through basically its handling characteristics and test its 3D qualities. Okay? This is Demon Driver, and this is the Demon Claw Pool Noodle 3D scratch-built airplane that you can build in 1 to 2 hours. Okay? Sit back, relax, and let's build the Demon Claw. Okay? Thanks. Enjoy. Alright, we're back. Let's get right down to business. Now, what are we going to need in order to build the Demon Claw? Well, basically, it's all pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy, but let's go through it. Of course, number one is your pool noodle. Alright, you're going to need your pool noodle. That's number one. Then, obviously, you're going to need some plywood. This is some regular plywood. We got some plywood. You're going to need some Depron, some thicker Depron. Okay, and then we've got our main Depron sheet. Okay. Then we have dollar store foam. Dollar store foam board. Okay. You got that. Now let's look at the electronics for this particular build. Here are electronics and hardware. Here are some propellers right here, some props. These are optimized for, if I'm not mistaken, these are optimized for rubber band, for, you know, breakaway rubber band mounting, where it sits on the motor and there's a rubber band holding it down, and that way, if you crash, it's basically called a prop saver, or a prop saver mount. Smaller mini servos. Primarily, we're going to be using the Hextronic right here, the Hextronic HXT900. This is a wonderful, inexpensive, cheap servo. These are going to be primarily used through this plane. Motor. This is about a 600-700 kilovolt, really small little 200 size motor. Let's actually get the dimensions on it so you guys can understand a little bit more about the motor itself. Diameter, it's 27.7 millimeters in diameter. The can itself, the actual cylinder, is 13.3 millimeters, and I would say the entire length of the motor from the mount to the entire length of it is about 46.5 millimeters. So that gives you an idea of that. Then we have a 20 amp speed controller. 20 amp speed controller, and two different 11-volt batteries. This is about a 1400 milliamp. This is about 1300 milliamp. These are overkill. These are too big for this plane. It'll fly with these, but I've got to get smaller 11-volt batteries. And you could probably use 7-volt, 2-cell 7-volt batteries will work fine as well. And here's a 3-bladed prop, optimized for the prop saver rubber band breakaway use. Get a magic marker or two. Magic markers are good. Get yourself some pens. Okay. Get a hand saw so you can saw the plywood. Scissor. Regular little X-Acto knife. Okay, and then we want a regular larger scale razor. I use these primarily for all my builds. Alright, building materials, more building materials, tape. Hot glue gun. Activator. CA. And 2-part 5-minute Bob Smith epoxy. Mother's milk. Right here. Good stuff. You want to use it. Various metal rulers for cutting. Here are the bits for the spinner, the prop spinners, the prop saver, rubber band mounts. This is what the prop is going to see. The rubber bands for the prop mount. They're a little collet adapter right there. Prop sits on it. The rubber bands hold the prop onto the collet adapter, and then if you crash, it can break away and it doesn't snap the prop. Called a prop saver. Hot glue itself. This is the hot glue. There we are. Wonderful, beautiful. Okay, great. All right, carbon fiber. Now, these are arrow bodies. These are carbon fiber arrow bodies, okay? Very important, very easy to find, very easy to get, very inexpensive. $2 per piece on the inexpensive, up to $5. Most countries you can get these. If you can't get it in carbon fiber, get it in aluminum. Okay. Length on these is 28 inches. 28 inches long. So basically, I'll show you where that's gonna be used. We got two of those. One for the wing, one for the fuse. Now I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do with that, and then it'll make a lot more sense. So let's break down and let's just draw out what we're gonna do. Now this is gonna be a beautiful build because we don't necessarily have to have plans, but you still have to plan out what you want to do. So let me give you an overview of what we're about to do. Okay, what is this plane going to basically consist of, and what is it primarily going to be? The Demon Claw is one of my new Pool Noodle series, where you can just take the simple foam pool noodle and make a plane out of it. And man, wait until you see what we're going to build out of these things. Okay, basically the first step is to get your pool noodle, right? Got your pool noodle, right? Alright, then what we're going to do is we're going to add our foam canopy and tail and rudder. Okay, that's all going to be one piece. Draw your canopy in. The second piece is going to be a carbon fiber rod that's going to run down inside the inner top wall of the pool noodle. Alright, that's going to be one of the arrow bodies. The second part is going to be a plywood engine mount, and that's what the motor, that's what the actual motor is going to mount to. Alright, second, we're going to cut a wing slit here and here. Alright, and we're going to slide our wing straight through the pool noodle and then epoxy it into position. Then we're going to cut a slit in the back and attach our elevator. Cut our rudder into place, do all that good stuff. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and attach the motor. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make our foam landing gear legs, and we'll make mock wheel pants, and we'll do that on the other side. We'll attach our wheels. We'll attach a tail skid. put the prop on, put the pop saver on, cut in our ailerons, add our aileron servos with the linkages, add the elevator servo linkages, and rudder servos with linkages. Okay, so that's basically what it's going to look like. If I were to draw kind of a profile of this design called the Demon Claw, this is so easy to build. I don't even have to use, I'm not even using plans. That's very important for you because you don't have to use plans either. So basically all it really is from the top down is, from the top looking down on it, is here's your pool noodle. Now I'm going to trim the pool noodle towards the end to make it a little bit more streamlined. But the wing is going to look something like this. Very, very simple with a little bit swept back, but a straight across horizontal trailing edge. There are your ailerons. And this is going to be aerobatic 3D. Same thing. We're going to mimic the elevator, and stabilizer will mimic the sweep of the main wings. The elevator stabilizer will be 1/3 the wingspan of the main wings. The main wings, I'm thinking, are probably going to be roughly, I want the wingspan to be greater than the overall fuselage length. So I'm thinking for the main wings, 32-inch wingspan on the main wings. 32 inches for the main wingspan, right? 32 inches, right? And the main fuselage length will be 28 inches, the length of the carbon fiber rod that's going to run through it. All right? And the elevator stabilizer will be 1/3 of 32 inches, which is screw that crap. Oh man, about 10 in, I don't know, 10 point. What is 3 into 32? My math sucks right now. But about, I don't know, maybe about 12 inches, a 12-inch, about a 12-inch, 11-inch to 12-inch stabilizer. And then if we were looking at the actual rudder, maybe 8 inches, something like that. All right. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. The whole thing is very simple. This is a plane, the Demon Claw. Is a plane that we're going to be able to build without plans. You build it with me. We're going to sit down and we're going to build this thing, and you're going to be amazed how easy it is to build this thing. Your very own 3D RC airplane that you can build with your kids and your family right at home out of stuff that you can go to the store immediately right now and get. Easy stuff, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we are back. Let's get started on the first part of the build here, and that is the fuselage of the Demon Claw. Now we take our pool noodle, right? That's the whole nucleus of this whole design, and this is called the Deluxe Pool Noodle, made by Midwood Brands. They make these in the United States, but they make them all over the world. Not a very exotic thing. First step that we are going to do is take one of our carbon fiber arrow bodies, right? Carbon fiber, really strong, tough. Strength of steel with the weight of balsa. Great stuff. So what we do is we take this and we run it, we compare it to the length of the pool noodle. And what we want to do is we take our marker and we then mark off where the carbon fiber rod ends. All right, we mark that off with the ruler, just like so, and we draw a straight line down the back. We're going to cut a straight, clean line. That's mainly what we want to do. And also we want to mark off the front and the back. Mark that off with a marker, front, and then we know that we want to mount our engine mount there, and there's our tail, so we have all that straightened out. Take your razor, alright, take your razor, and now we're going to cut the pool noodle in half. We're going to go ahead and cut it. Try and cut a straight, clean cut. Straighter the better. There we are. That's our fuselage for the Demon Claw. There's the fuse. Just like that. See? Then what we do is we take our carbon fiber rod and we're going to run the carbon fiber rod right down the center of the fuselage. Like so. Really easy. Easy stuff. Easy peasy 1, 2, 3. Very easy stuff. So what we want to do is we want to mark off very quickly with our marker, here it is, the top of the, we want the carbon fiber rod to run down the top of the inside hole. So we mark that off here and here. We mark it off with the pen. We mark it. That's the top. This is the rear. That's the front. So we've got our hot glue gun. Now for this situation I'm going to use 2-part Bob Smith epoxy because we're going to epoxy the carbon fiber rod into place down the fuselage of the Demon Claw, down the pool noodle. So we take 2 parts of epoxy. Okay. Oh, and just so you know, let me get a measurement on that pool noodle where we stand. Okay. Get our ruler out. The pool noodle is exactly 28 inches long. That's the fuselage of the Demon Claw. 28 inches because that's the length of the carbon fiber arrow body rod. And we run a little bit down the top edge, the top inner lining there of the noodle. Like that. Take our brush and we run that right down the center. Make sure that you guys are seeing all this. So we run this down the center. So we go ahead and sit that down. We set it down. We take our carbon fiber rod now and we do the same thing. We brush the 5-minute epoxy directly onto the rod. Now the important part is we're adding the carbon fiber to the upper half of the rod, and the upper half of the rod is going to meet the inner wall, the upper inner wall of the tube, so that way the two stick together. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I take the rod, I flip it, and I run it right down the tube, and I go ahead, and there we are. Just like that. See, I've just run the carbon fiber rod right down the tube. And here's the big part. You want the rod to come out a little bit in the front. See that? You want it to just poke up by about maybe 1 or 2 millimeters. See that? You want it to pop up a little bit. Just a little bit. If your fuselage is a little bit crooked because of the fact that it's a pool noodle, that's okay, not a big deal. It's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. And you place it down and you find something that is straight, or what you can do is you take some, I like to take cordless power tool batteries, and I go like that, and I just sort of place them in there like that, and I use line of sight in my eyes, and I can, there we go, beautiful, and straighten out the noodle. That way any curvature or any anything like that, deformity, we can get rid of. And then I'm also, you know, doing what I have to do to, I'm adding a little bit more epoxy inside the arrow body. I mean, inside the pool noodle. Okay, now as you're waiting for as I'm waiting for my Bob Smith epoxy to dry, it usually takes, you know, it's 5 minutes, but it takes about 10 minutes. While you're doing that, you can go ahead, and if you don't want to use 5-minute epoxy, 2-part epoxy, you can use hot glue. You can go ahead and use hot glue, and I'm going to put a little in there just for the hell of it, just to show you what I'm talking about. You can use a little bit of hot glue to go ahead and apply that to the internals of to your demon claw, to the fuselage. And you can go ahead and do that. And that just helps keep everything nice and, you know, you don't have to use the 5-minute 2-part epoxy. You don't have to use this. You can build this entire airplane with hot glue if you want to. It's your choice. It's your preference, your choice. I'm just kind of giving you a roadmap to follow here. If you pay attention, you can go ahead and make whatever plane you want. And the good thing is we cut out our pool noodle, but we have enough left over to make a slightly smaller demon claw. So you can make 2 planes in one by modifying the design and just making it a little bit smaller. The great thing about this design is it lends itself to being incredibly flexible and very easy to make. So now that we have that, you make sure that your epoxy is dried, you make sure that your glue is dried, and we go ahead and we're going to go ahead and, there we are. Carbon fiber rod down the internal part of the demon claw. Here's the forward section with the carbon fiber rod sticking out a little bit. Now, the reason why we want that is this is step 2, the firewall. This is the motor mount. This is the plywood mount. Now we'll cut this out with a Dremel tool. We'll cut this out. All right, next step. We've gone ahead and cut our plywood engine mount. I hand cut this. It's rough, that's fine, that's no big deal. Now, out of plywood, we take our pool noodle fuselage with the carbon fiber rod down the center, and what we do is we mix up some 5-minute epoxy. Again, you can use hot glue for this if you want. You can use hot glue. Not a big deal. That's up to you. That's your preference. Okay, makes things easier. So we go ahead and we apply the 5-minute epoxy straight onto the forward section of the demon claw fuse, and of course also to the, primarily you want to put it straight onto the plywood engine mount. Now this is what the motor is going to mount onto. Okay, this is what this motor is going to mount to. So this thing has to be, really thoroughly epoxied in order to make that happen. So you apply your epoxy straight onto the plywood motor mount or carbon fiber motor mount, whatever you want to use. It's up to you. So you go ahead and you apply that straight onto the, right onto the nose of the, right onto the nose, right there, just like that. And you can feel how rigid the carbon fiber rod has made the fuselage of the demon claw. You can just feel it. So now that you've done that, you take a marker and you want to basically get a line straight through to make sure that you are properly aligned, because we're going to want to have the center of the engine aligned with everything else. So we want to have the wings, we're going to create an X across top bottom, right and left, okay? Right and left. So that the wings and the wing holes and the tail and the canopy are all basically lined up properly. And we use the marker to do that. And that way we can run our lines and get everything lined up so that when we add our wings and everything is straight and symmetrical and we don't have things messed up, not lining up. So we're going to go ahead and let that mount dry. And if it's a little bit crooked, it's not a big deal. You can put washers in to straighten out the mount. When the engine is mounted, it's not a big deal. Trust me, it's not. That's the least of your problems. And once you have that done, we go ahead and we put a little hot glue, add a little hot glue right in there. But we have a firewall mounted. We have the carbon fiber rod sent through. Now the next step, what we really want to do is we want to establish three things. We want to put the canopy and tail on the fuselage, and we want to get an idea where we want to put the wing on the fuselage. Now, in most aircraft, this is going to be a 3D aircraft. In most aircraft, let's get a ruler here too. Most aircraft, depending on type of aircraft you have, the wing is usually in the forward half of the plane. Meaning, let's say this plane is 28 inches long, so at the 14-inch mark is the halfway mark of the plane at 14 inches, okay? So the wing chord, I would say, is going to be 1/3 the length of the fuselage, okay? So let's round it up to 30 inches, okay? 1 and a 30 is obviously, 3 and a 30 is 10. Let's cut that back a little bit. Let's say 9 inches. So let's say our wing chord for this airplane is going to be 9 inches, okay? 9 inches. So that's the wing chord. So the wing is going to start, if we got a 28-inch fuselage, okay? 28-inch fuselage. The wings start at the 5-inch mark. They end at the 14-inch mark. You understand? That's where the wing is going to be, and that's the wing chord. Now the wing overall wingspan will be 34 inches. So now that we know that, that's important. So the next thing I want to do is I want to mark off where I want to start the canopy and where I want it to end, obviously. Now we want the rudder to run past the end of the fuselage so that obviously the rudder can move. Now there's a couple of things we're going to have to do in order to make everything perfect, but we'll get to that later. Right now, let's go ahead and cut out the canopy and tail. Let's do that right now. Okay? Now, I'm going to use a special foam which is very readily available in the United States called dollar store foam. This is dollar store foam board. Okay? Dollar store foam board. Very very basic stuff in the United States. You can get it at Dollar Tree and other stores. Now, a lot of guys, when they peel there's a paper layer, top and bottom. Now, a lot of guys have an elaborate way for peeling the paper off. I have a rather simple one. You just take your finger, grab corner, and you peel it back. You hold it against your body. Okay, my friends, we are back. Now we are going to make the canopy for the Demon Claw. So we want this to come all the way back. We're lining the fuselage up with the canopy, and we want the stabilizer to be about, we may want to make that distinction now too also while we're at it. We want the stabilizer to come back past the tail, but we won't deal with that right now. Let's go ahead and form the canopy. Alright, so let's take a drawing tool, like so. Let's go ahead and draw out the beginning of the canopy. It's going to run all the way back. Okay, we're drawing this straight into our dollar store foam. There we go. We'll have it come down a little bit, and we'll have it just kind of follow this arc like that. And then what is going to happen go ahead and we'll start the slope up for the actual tail. And there we are. And there is the tail. Let's go ahead and make that. There we are. And there's the tail. So that's half of it, but the other half will actually come back off that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So I got my razor here, and I hand cut this. I'm going to hand cut this straight out, the forward portion, and then I take the ruler and I cut out the straight portion like that, and that way you get a perfect cut every time. And then I hand cut where the curve is. I just cut that with my own hand. And then again, where I come into a straight portion, I use the razor, just like that. And there we are. And help join the rudder element, the rudder tail straight to the fuse, and make sure it is on. So the next step now of what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and well, you know what? While I'm at it, I might as well draw in the canopy. I might as well just go ahead and do that now. Now you can go ahead and make a canopy decal if you want. You can do that. But I'll just go ahead and draw it. I'll draw it by hand, like so. And there you go. I got a pilot. I got the pilot. I got the canopy. Now I'll do it on the same side. I'll do it on the flip side. I'll go ahead. You can print on canopy. It doesn't matter. But this is just to save time and make something that's really expedient and easy. See how easy that is? See how fast that is? So the next step is we're going to go ahead and attach this to the plane. Now for this, I'm going to use hot glue. Alright, I got my hot glue gun all ready to rock. Alright, and I'm going to just put the hot glue straight down the line here, just like that. I'm going to put it right down the line. Right down the line, right there. Put the hot glue right down the line, just like that. And then I'm going to come in with this, and I'm just going to attach it. I'm going to add my canopy piece straight to the plane, just like that. Making sure that it's as straight as I can get it. That's crucial. You need to get it straight. It rides down the line just like that. Okay, it rides down the line That's what you want. Rides right down the line. See that? Make sure it's flush, make sure it's straight. But do you see what's happening here? Two pieces. I mean, one piece and I've got myself an entire tail rudder. I got the canopy. Look at that. Isn't that pretty cool? I mean, that's pretty quick. That's pretty fast and easy. That's pretty straightforward. That's pretty easy. That's pretty to the point. Okay, I'm back. Now this next step is very important. We're now making the wings of the Demon Claw. Now, we got a sheet of Depron, alright? This sheet of Depron is approximately 48 inches by 24 inches, and its overall thickness is about 5 millimeters. Okay? Now, we're going to base everything on the fuselage of the Demon Claw. Now, the fuselage is 28 inches long, right? Fuselage has a carbon fiber rod that runs straight down it. Now, we want the wingspan of the Demon Claw to be greater than this. Here's the main carbon fiber rod that is going to go inside the wing. We want the wing to be 34 inches. Now watch. Watch what I'm going to do. Pay attention. Very important, because this is the whole kit and caboodle right here. If you mess this up, it's bad news. Now watch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off 34 inches. 34 inches. I'm going to mark that off right now. 34 inches. Here's 34 inches. Right there. Alright, and 17-inch mark is the halfway mark between the two. That's the halfway mark. So I'm already marking off what I need to do and getting things cleared up already. Now this wing is going to have a bit of a wing sweep to it. This wing is going to be slightly swept. Now watch what I do. Take a right angle here, and I'm going to go ahead and mark off. I'm going to go ahead and mark off the trailing edge of the wing. There we go. Trailing edge. 34 inches, 17 inches. That's the halfway mark, and that's the left. Now, we know that the wing is going to be 9 inches, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 9 inches. That's the wing chord. That's the width of the wing. The wing chord, the wing root, where the wing meets the fuselage. Okay? Now, we're going to mark that off like so. Take our right angle. Go ahead and mark that off the center point. Now we have a baseline to ride from. Now we take our ruler and we go from 1 to the 9. 1 to the 9. This is important. Now, we want a wing sweep here that is significant. We want a significant wingspan. So, we want a lot of wing area because we want this plane to fly with, with authority. So we're going to go for the full. This is going to be. We're going to use the whole length of this right angle here to go ahead and form the outer wings. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to measure out. This is important. The actual width of this noodle. All right, and the width of the noodle seems to be about 4 inches. So there we are, and there we are. Now, that portion in here is where this area inside here is the part that's going to be inside the fuselage once I slide the wing through. So it's very important that I mark this off and I get this right. You see what I'm saying? This is the fuselage part that's going to be inside the fuse that is going to be it's not going to be exposed outside the plane. So what we're going to do is we're not going to extend the wing sweep to this portion. The wing sweep is going to start outside this. So watch what I'm going to do. From here to here, boom. You see what I'm doing? Boom. Okay? 1 inches, 17 inches, 34 inches. Trailing edge. The trailing edge is roughly 5.5, a little over 5.5 inches out there. Okay? The wing cord is 9 inches. You understand? Now, the CG. I'm going to put the CG right in right now because that's where I'm going to put the carbon fiber rod. The carbon fiber rod is going to go right where the CG of the wing is, and thus the airplane. Your CG is always on the wing, and it's always where the CG for the whole airplane is. So we got 9 inches, right? 9 inches. 4.5 is the halfway mark. So I'm going to go in between. I'm going to go about here. Right here is the CG. 9 inches, I'm going to say 3 inches. This is the, right there is the central, but we'll give that the sweet spot. We'll make that the sweet spot right in there. So, right off the bat, I know that that may not work. So I'm going to put the, carbon fiber rod a little bit back behind the actual CG point. Now this is important what I'm about to do. Now, calipers are good to use because you can use your caliper. Excuse me, I like to step on my plants. You can use your caliper to judge and to position everything perfectly so that things are right where you want them to be. So we want our carbon fiber rod to run down the wing, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a channel for the carbon fiber rod to sit under, to sit inside of. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go ahead and we're going to measure the width of the carbon fiber rod, and we're going to add that straight in to the kit and caboodle right there. Right there. Okay, watch. I'm going to go ahead and mark the baseline for the carbon fiber rod channel that the carbon fiber rod is going to go down. And now I'm going to do the second line, cut. Cut that. Take my razor, make sure that the carbon fiber rod is going to fit inside. Yes, it will. Good. Excellent. That's what I want. And I go ahead and I cut this out. Even before I cut the wing out, I cut this out. Now, something interesting also that I want you to notice before I cut this wing out. Make sure everything's straight. And I cut. Try and keep the razor perpendicular and vertical as you can to the actual foam. See, pull that out. Now I got a good channel for the carbon fiber rod to sit inside of. And that's exactly what I want right there. See that? That's what I want because this carbon fiber rod is going to be the structural strength of this wing. Now, here's the big picture. The aileron. Watch. The aileron is 1 inch in the entire wing. Since this is an aerobatic airplane, there is the aileron. You just draw it right in, and then later on we're going to come in and cut it right out of the wing. We'll cut it right out. Now, metal rulers. Your metal rulers are a godsend because this is how you cut the wing out. Look. Go ahead. Cut. Trailing edge on the left side is already cut out because we're using the outer wall for that. Okay. Move this for a second. Let's go ahead and do that. And we cut right there. There we are. That's already cut out. Let's go ahead and cut out the other one. Cut out the other leading edge. Go straight across. Cut out the forward portion. Boom. Take our bigger metal ruler. Should I say aluminum? I think it's aluminum. As the Germans would say, Aluminium. So there we are. You don't have to cut out the ailerons yet. But there we are. There's the wing. That is the Demon Claw's wing. It's that simple. Now, here's a big trick, and I want you to watch. I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to do now. This is big. Now I'm going to get this foam out of here because I don't need this foam right now. This foam piece, you can make your whole plane and then some out of this foam piece. I could make an entire wing, another wing out of this foam piece. So don't throw away your foam. Now watch. This is big, what I'm about to do. I want you to pay attention to this. I'm going to take this tape, and on the bottom side, I'm going to lay it across. Watch. Take the tape, lay it across the bottom, like so. Okay, tape, not a biggie. Okay, watch what I'm going to do. Lay it across the bottom of the hole of the carbon fiber rod channel that the carbon fiber rod is going to run down. Go ahead. Alright. This is big what I'm about to do. Pay attention. Watch. Take your ruler, place it over the wing so that the wing is flat and straight. Now, this is big. This is big. We get our epoxy. Get our epoxy, right? Mix up the 5-minute epoxy. I'm using 5-minute epoxy for this, for doing what I'm about to do. You can use whatever you want. You want to use hot glue? Use hot glue. It's up to you. Your choice. Only bad thing about hot glue, it has a tendency when it's hot to melt the foam. So be careful. Because it's hot, it has a tendency to eat into the foam, so you gotta pay attention to that fact. Okay, I'm taking this 5-minute epoxy that I just mixed up, and I'm putting it right into, I'm mixing it down into the channel that I just made and the tape. You understand? I'm putting it down in there. Like that. And you want it, you know, a bunch of little globs, and then you take the carbon fiber rod, and you pop it right down in there like that. Crucial, important. There you go, and you take your brush and you brush it right into there, just like that. This is so important. I can't stress to you how important this is, what I'm doing right now. Because this is what is connecting the carbon fiber rod to the wing. This is making the carbon fiber rod one with the wing. Now, we come in with the tape again, and we coat it, we cover it. We cover this sucker, just like that. Now, just like that. Right? Exactly. See that? And we take our ruler and we place it over that just like that. Boom. Perfect. That's going to fuse with the wing, the carbon fiber rod. It's going to fuse with the wing. That's what we want. That's exactly what we want. Alright? Look what's going to happen. You see what's going on so far? Is this catching on? Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Now, big step. Big moment right now. We are going to cut out the notch in the Demon Claw that the wing is going to slide through. Straight shot right through the fuselage. Take your knife, right? Take your knife, take a ruler. This is big, and you got to make sure you do this right, because if you get this wrong, you're going to really mess everything up. Go straight down through with your razor and cut. Boom, like that. And then we're going to cut out a little bit on the top. So we're cutting out a slit that's roughly the same width of the wing. You want to do that. Alright, you want to do that. And then we just cut out a little bit on the front. And we just tear this out. We tear out the foam. Now you're going to have to do that a couple of times in order to make it work right. And while you're doing this, the epoxy's drying, so it's all, you know, it works out. You know, you're doing one thing, something else is going down, and then before, you know, when you're done, you got everything complete. Look at that. You take the foam out of there, like that, and there we have it. There's our channel for the wing. Do it on the flip side. We do it on the flip side. Now you got to make sure, of course, you mark it on the flip side as well, like that. Make sure you're marked off on the flip side as well, so that way everything lines up. So let's do it on the flip side. This is important. This is the whole kit and caboodle right here. This is the part you got to get right. Okay, this is the part we want to get right. And we just take the razor and we cut straight through the foam, all the way through. Because this is how the wing is going to fit through. This is what, you know, this is how we're going to get that wing to fit through. Just like that. Straight down that line, baby. Just like that. There we go. And we just cut out the end, like that, right out of the thing. Take your knife and just pick that crap right out of there. There we go. Well, if it drops down in, you get a tweezer or something. You get your tweezer, you get, you know, and you just pick the foam right out of there. Not a big deal. There we go. Hey. Boom. Now what do we got? We got a channel. Do you see that? There's the channel. This is the channel the wing is going to ride in. And we got to make sure that it's going to be symmetrical through the wing when we match them up. We want it to be straight. We got to make it straight. If you want something to happen, you got to make it happen. Let's go ahead and let's get everything nice and straightened out here. So the main thing you want to do is you want to clean all that out. There you go. Now, this is dry. This is dry. The wing is dry now. All right? But what do we got? We got a stiff wing. This is exactly what we want. We've got a perfectly stiffened wing, and it is now attached. It's ready. Now, while we're at it, let's go ahead and let's cut out the ailerons. Let's cut them out right now. Let's cut those ailerons out. Let's clean up the table a little bit. Let's get some of this mess out of here. But while we're at it, let's cut out these ailerons. Okay, let's cut out the ailerons because I'll show you why. Let's cut these suckers out. And then we're gonna, you can add a joint to them, or you can just add joint tape, and that's what I'm gonna do. It's a lot easier. Boom. There we are. And draw on there, right, left. All right, now, this is a big moment right now. We're going to test fit the wing through the slot of the demon claw. We're going to test, look at that, huh? Oh, baby. Yeah, see how easy it slides in there? Look at that. Look at that. Boom. Look at that. That looks good. And it's perfectly straight. Look at that, man. That is awesome. Wing slides through perfectly. Look at that, perfectly symmetrical. Everything is angled properly. Good wingspan. Oh, this is gonna really rock. This is really cool. And the great thing about this is gonna be a resilient, good, sturdy airplane. That's the beauty of this. So we're gonna test fit this for now. We're not gonna hard glue it yet. I'm gonna show you. We're not gonna do that yet. We don't need to. So let's go ahead and make the elevator stabilizer. Let's make the stabilizer elevator right now. Let's do that. Let's go back to our. Let's use the same material that we made the wing out of. And let me just cut off a chunk. All right, let's cut a chunk off. There we go. We got that chunk. And let's say we want our elevator to be 11 inches. All right, let's do it 11 inches. And what the heck, let's make it 12. Let's go for an even dozen. Let's make it 12. What the hell? Doesn't cost anything. 12 inches, let's mark it off. Boom. 6 inches is the halfway mark. 6. Okay. Beautiful. Perfect. Now, this is important. This is important right now. We want our control surfaces to be 1 inch. So whatever we do here, the elevator portion is going to be 1 inch. So we know that we bring the demon claw over and we go ahead and we measure the root, and let's say it's 4 inches, so it's going to be 5 inches. So I go ahead and I mark 5 inches straight up. 5 inches. 5 inches. So 5 inches is the size. All right, let's get back to the build here. All right, now we're cutting out our, we're getting our wing cut out here. Now what we want to do is we want to copy the same exact angle of attack as the main wing. So one of the things you can do is go ahead and put your plane. All right, there we go. And we can use the same angle of attack, the same angle of sweep. All right, so what we do is I just went ahead and did that, and I mimicked the angle of sweep for the leading edge of the main wing. So I take my caliper, you can take a ruler and measure out the outer edge of your stabilizer. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do it on this side. Boom. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. Bam. And let's go ahead and add in the elevator itself. Let's go ahead and add that in. The elevator is going to be 1 inch. Inch deep. That's the elevator. That's the stabilizer elevator. Okay? Now, again, like we did with the main wing, we want to go ahead and we want to mark off how far, the fuselage comes out. We got to get that right. Just like that. All right, and we do the same thing on the other side. We use our, again, the magical caliper. Helps out. It makes life a lot easier. We go ahead and we do that. Let's cut this sucker out. Here we go. Let's cut it out. There we are. There we are. And let's cut out the elevator. One piece elevator so that one servo can actuate it. Alright, there we are. Boom. Now, just like we did with the main wing, we're gonna have to cut out the slit that the elevator is going to ride down. Now here's something also that's very important that I'm going to do. I want you to watch what I'm about to do. Now, one of the things that we use in this hobby, that I use especially, is carbon fiber. Now, I'm not going to use it though for the stabilizer. I'm going to use a simple brush stem. Okay? I'm going to use a brush stem, and I'm going to go ahead and mark off a channel and do exactly what I did with the carbon fiber rod on the main wing. But for the elevator stabilizer, we really don't need that. That's overkill, and that's a waste of carbon fiber. We don't need it, and it's just, you know, I'm not going to stress it that much where this little piece of wood is going to break. So in some cases, if you don't have carbon fiber, you can use wood. That's fine. I mean, you know, use what you got. But the thing is, you have to reinforce. You got to reinforce things, because if you don't, what winds up happening, you have a weak airplane, and you have a tendency of it breaking apart, falling apart. You don't want that to happen. That's really, it's not a benefit to you, and it doesn't help anybody, and you have an airplane that's flimsy. You don't want that. You don't want a flimsy airplane. So we go ahead and we take our two-part epoxy, just like we did the last time. We mix up our two-part epoxy. We're going to mix up our two-part epoxy, just like we did before, and now we're going to apply it to the stabilizer, the stem to this little piece of wood, to help strengthen the stabilizer. We mix this up, mix it up, take your brush, mix it up. Try and keep everything as clean as you can. Try and keep your workplace clean, and just mix it straight in. There you go. Just place it straight in there like that. Put some in the middle, and go ahead and drop your. There you go. Look at that. Fits in there nice. And brush it in. Brush it in. Brush it in like that. See? Nice. Beautiful. Perfect. Take another piece of tape and cover it. Just like that. And cover it. Just like that. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. Alright, now we come in and we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut out the slit for the we're going to cut in the slit for the elevator, just like we did with the main wing. Now we're going to do it right here. We're going to cut it right into the tail. So I go ahead and I take my ruler, and I want it to be exactly along the same channel with the wing. I got to get this right. If I don't get this right, that's the whole kit and caboodle right there. I don't want to screw this up. I got to get this right. Pick that stuff right out of there. There we go. And I do the same thing on the flip side. I do the same thing on the flip side. Same exact thing. Take my ruler and I cut it out. Pick out my foam, and there we are. And now I'm going to slip the elevator right into its place. There we go. And there we are. Now it's a little bit off. Mind you, that can happen. So we're gonna have to do some, we're gonna have to make some fine tuning to get this straight. Gotta make a little fine tuning to get this straight. So we go ahead and we use our razor. And we go ahead and do just that. We keep doing it until we have a straight fit. And it's going to take some finessing to get it right. It's not always that easy. Alright, Demon Driver back here again, and we are continuing with the build. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start to add the control surfaces, the elevator and the ailerons to the Demon Claw. Now I made a little modification. This elevator surface was a little bit, wasn't big enough. Since I want this to be a 3D airplane, this original 1-inch was just not big enough, so I basically doubled the elevator to a 2-inch. That's going to give me more pitch, up and down ability than the old one did. So let's go ahead and let's start getting ready to do that. Now before I do that, I want to go ahead and hot glue the stabilizer to the actual fuselage. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little hot glue for that. Now, actually, more that I think about it, I probably want to epoxy that. You can use epoxy, you can use hot glue, it really doesn't matter. It's up to you. Sometimes hot glue has a good, there are good times when you can use hot glue, and sometimes there are circumstances where it's better to use 5-minute 2-part epoxy to do something. So I'm going to add the Demon Claw's elevator to the fuselage, this surface to the fuselage, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm mixing up my 5-minute Bob Smith epoxy, and I just gently slide the elevator back out. And what I do is I take the brush and I apply it to the inside of the noodle, like so. And I just brush it down inside. Now, this foam is porous, so that you gotta put quite a bit of it in there, because what happens is it kind of like falls down into the foam, if that makes any sense. The epoxy falls down into the foam. So I'm going to mix it a little bit more. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and actually slide the elevator into position and epoxy it into position. We've got epoxy top and bottom. And while you're doing it, make sure that you align it. Make sure that it's properly aligned. And I'm trying to make sure I do this in front of you, because I don't want to, I don't want this to be something where I'm doing these things and you don't see it. I want to make sure that you guys see all this stuff, because if you don't, then there's no point to it. You want to make sure that the angle is right. You want to make sure the dihedral is right. All those, you know, that it's perfectly horizontal to the rest of the plane. The elevator is to the wing, because any kind of variations that you're going to have are going to affect your flight characteristics. Because if you have twisted flight surfaces and control surfaces, the plane is going to fly accordingly. The plane will follow that twist. The plane will react to that. So you don't want that. You want everything to be as straight as possible, if that makes any sense. If the wing is horizontal, you want the elevator to be horizontal with it, unless it's a, you know, some aircraft have elevators that have dihedral or anhedral, so it's really, you know, it varies. Now, also the next thing now we want to do is we want to add structure. We want to add structural strength to the tail rudder. So instead of using a carbon fiber rod, I'm going to show you how to use a very cheap wooden brush handle or brush stem to have that be the actual support. So we're going to cut that. We're going ahead and cut that, and then we'll apply it. So I get these shears. Alright, so I clip that, and we can use the hot glue for this. This is a good time to use the hot glue. So I'll go ahead and get the hot glue, because I want to mix between epoxy and hot glue. I want to show you how you can use both, and you don't have to be afraid or worried. So let's go ahead and run a bead of hot glue. There we go. Let's run a bead of hot glue. There we go. And let's go ahead and just fit the let's fit that stem right to it. See that? Look at that. Boom. Right there. Just like that, ladies and gents. There we are. We fit it right to it. And that's going to give us strength. That's going to give us rigidity in our tail. We want that. There we go. Let's run a little bit more hot glue in there to give that a little bit more structure. There we are. Let's run a little hot glue inside the elevator to give that a little bit more support. There we go. There we are. Very nice. Alright. There we go. Cool. Now, since I did that, I need to create a notch in the actual elevator. See that, I don't know if you can see this, but see the fact that that stem sticks out past the tail. What I now have to do is I have to create a notch on my elevator to accompany that that notch. So I'm gonna get my pen, and I'm gonna actually draw out a little thing that I can cut out, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna cut that out like so. There we are. And do you see what that does? That enables me to still have, so the elevator can still do what it needs to do. Now while we're on this subject, let's go ahead and add our rudder. Let's add the actual rudder. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the same material, Depron. Let me break off a little chunk so it's easier to work with. And let's look for a straight edge that's already straight, and let's line this up with, let's line this up here. And let's use something that's already, let's see what we got here. I love making things easy. I love making life easy on yourself as opposed to making life difficult. I like easy builds, easy planes, just making an easy project. So we're going to go ahead and measure this out. So I'll say 6.5 inches. Okay, that's the height of this. That's the height of this rudder. So let's mark off 6.5 inches. There we go. 6.5 inches. 6.5 inches. There we are. And let's make the rudder as long as the actual elevator, because you want that 2 inches. You want things to be aesthetically pleasing to the eye, you know, as much as you can. within reason, I guess. So there we are, that looks pretty good. I like that. Pretty cool. Never cut foam with a plastic ruler, because all you're going to do is destroy your plastic ruler. Use a metal one. Never cut foam with anything but a metal ruler. Makes life a lot easier on you, ladies and gents. So we're cutting out the rudder right now. That's what we're doing. Cutting out the rudder. Here's the rudder. Cutting it out. Cutting the rudder out. Simple foam. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to start adding our hinges. Very important, my friends. See, there's the rudder. There you go. There's the rudder. Look at that. Nice big fat rudder. Now the rudder will actually be taped on because of the fact we don't want to put hinges through that wood, because that's just a pain in the ass and it's not necessary. And there you have it. So this is the trick for adding your. Periodically, I look at the camera to make sure that it's working properly. Here's the trick to add your hinges. Now, I am going to use hinges and tape. You can use tape by itself. So I make a mark on the actual elevator, and then I mark on the stabilizer portion, elevator portion, so that they're all lined up. You understand? All right. Now what I do is I go ahead and take my razor and I cut a notch straight into there. Take my razor and I cut a notch right into the elevator. There we are. Right down the middle. Right down the middle of the width of the elevator. And there we are. Cut that sucker right in there. There we are. Just like that. Yeah, just like that. There we are. And then what I do is I come in and I do the same thing on the stabilizer side of the demon claw. Come in, cut my notch, cut it straight in with the knife, right in like that. Cut it down the center. Make sure you go straight down the center, and you do that as closely as possible, because that way your hinges line up so that they're not crooked. There we go. Alright, let's line them all up and then we'll epoxy them into place. Now, I have a whole bunch of little plastic assortment here of hinges and all this other crap, and hinge bits and all that other stuff. I don't have to go crazy. You can use hinge tape. I mean, this is something, it's up to you. So you go ahead and you pop the hinge in. Make sure it fits in. Alright. 4 hinges on the elevator surface, the control surface that is the elevator, and then 2 on each aileron, and then the rudder will be taped in. So see, there we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then those will fit straight into the stabilizer. So let's go ahead and let's whip up some more epoxy. Let's do that. Okay, let's whip up some more epoxy. Very important. The epoxy, this is where you want to use epoxy. You don't want to use 5-minute, or at least I don't want to use 5-minute, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. If you know what I mean, ladies and gents. Okay, let's get this out of here. Let's get this hot glue gun out of here. Don't need that at the moment. Let's get our 5-minute. Let's mix it up. I'm sitting here wasting time doing this, and you guys are already falling asleep. I don't want that. All right, we mix it up. So what we do is we go back to the elevator, and we take a little dab. And we just place it down. Take out the whole hinge, place it down along there, like so, along the cut that you made with the knife, and then just stick the hinge down in just like that. Okay, just pop the hinge down right in there, right, and come back in, do it here. Now here is the most important thing. Don't get epoxy on the hinge portion itself, on the actual thing that makes it a hinge, the two moving parts, because if you do, it'll no longer be a hinge, it'll all be fused together and it won't work, the hinge won't work. Now one thing I haven't mentioned while I'm doing all of this, and when I've been building this plane with epoxy and hot glue, there's another glue that you can use, and it's Foam Safe CA. And I have some, but I don't know where the hell I put it. But it's basically the foam safe version of this. Probably Great Plains makes the most the best brand of it, but it's very expensive. It's about $10 a bottle and up. Bigger bottles of foam safe can be as much as $20 a bottle, and it's rather expensive. And you can it'll if you build a whole plane with Foam Safe CA, it'll disappear very quickly, and you'll be out a very expensive bottle of foam. So right now, we're going and adding the hinges to the. We're slipping the hinges in. So we might have to go in again and cut these hinges open, these hinge slots a little bit wider. Alright, here we go. Let's pop this in. This is all easy stuff. This is all easy peasy, no big deal. Sometimes the hinges don't like to go in, they just like to be pains in the neck. But you line them up the best you can, you pop them in, you go ahead, you slip them in like that, and there you are. There you go. See, just like that. And there is our elevator. Right? Right. That's the elevator. Real easy, real simple. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and add the let's add the rudder. Now the rudder, we can get away with something here, because we don't want to. What we don't want to do is we don't want to add hinges to the rudder. What we're going to do is we're going to do it with tape. We're going to do it with tape. Really easy. So we take a piece of clear tape and we already pre-apply it to one side like so. And then what we do is we go ahead and we take our rudder, we line it up. We line it up first, and then we just stick it right, we just stick the tape right on there. We just add it to the tape. Now take your tape to the other side, an ample amount. Go ahead and add it, not a big deal. This is all easy stuff. Everything I'm doing is very, very simple to do. It's very easy. See what I'm doing? So the tape becomes the joint. And there we are. We have enough, you know, we want enough for, move it around to manipulate the tape so that, you know, you get it to move. But see, there you go. So what do we got? We got a rudder and we have an elevator. Now, something I already just noticed is that the rudder is interfering with the motion up and down, up, down. So for now, that's okay. I'll leave that alone. Not a big issue at the moment. Now, ailerons. Let's add the ailerons. Next big step. Okay, we got our ailerons, ladies and gents. Let's add them. Okay, right and left. Now, same trick as the stabilizer elevator, same trick. You go ahead and you take your pen and you line it up and you draw where you want the hinge to go, and you line it up with the aileron and the wing. There we go, and there we go. Hinges are good because they hold up better than tape does. Over time, tape is just going to wear out and break off, so it's just not going to work in the long run. So we go ahead and line those up. So if you want something that's a little bit more durable, that's what you're going to have to do. Alright, so there we are. Again, we do the same thing we did with the elevator, and we cut with the knife. We go and watch your fingers, watch your hands, be careful. We go ahead and we cut the notch for the hinge. We cut it, and then we cut it. Just like that. There we are. That's the left one. Here's the right one. Let's do it again. Let's cut. There we are. And then we do the same thing on the wing side. Just like that. And then we come in and we cut the groove into the wing of where the hinge for the wing is going to go, you know, where the aileron meets the wing. Very easy stuff. This is all easy. Again, you got to watch your fingers. Don't want to cut yourself. Watch your placement of your hands and your fingers. Make sure that you're not cutting into yourself. Be very careful. Anytime you're messing around with a knife, you want to really pay attention to what you're doing. All right? Okay, so we got that. Perfect. Next step. Hinges. Let's go ahead and add our hinges. Let's add the hinges. Now I got some cheap little hinges here. These are these little cheap little hinges, so I'm going to go ahead and use these. These are kind of like these hinges that used to come with ARFs. They're really cheap. It's just a connected piece of plastic. See? It's a connected piece of plastic, and it, you know, you kind of pre-bend them in your hand. You pre-bend them like that. You kind of loosen them up a little bit. No biggie. And then we go ahead and we mix up some more epoxy, because that's what we are going to use to attach the hinges to the wing. Right? Exactly. Okay, let's do that right now. Get out another brush. We use cheap dollar store throwaway brushes, disposable little watercolor brushes. They're perfect for this application. Absolutely perfect. And we go ahead and we get our control surfaces. This is left. Apply the epoxy. All right. Put a little bit of epoxy on there, on the hinge, and let's drive that sucker on in. There we go. Put that sucker right in there. Beautiful. All right, one is in. Let's get the other one in. There we go. There we are. That's the left one. Done. Right one. Get a little epoxy. Let's put a little on there. And the next big thing that we're doing next is we're going to actually install the motor. Yeah, baby, we're going to install the motor. Install the motor onto the engine mount. That's the next step. That's the next big step. Let's go ahead and stick that down in there. Alright, there's our other hinge. Now I'm going to use this epoxy I just mixed up to get all this done right now. And I'm going to use them on the other side too. Alright, let's go ahead and apply the same epoxy that we just mixed up to the wing side for the ailerons. There we are. And there we are. And there we are. And after we install the engine, we're going to go ahead and install the servos. Okay. Make sure the camera's running. Okay, good. Now let's go ahead and push that sucker right in there. There we go. Perfect. Perfectamundo, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it goes right in there, just like that. There we are. Cool. Perfect. And let's do the left one. There we go, fits right in there. See how easy that is? Look at that. Fits right in there, nothing to it. Nothing to it, ladies and gents. There we go. Fits that right in there. That one's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass because it doesn't... Sometimes what you're going to notice is sometimes you got to make sure that the notch is long enough or this isn't going to fit. You got to make sure that the notch... There we go. If it isn't long enough, it won't work. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect. Okay. Here we are. And there we are. Right and left ailerons in position and in place. There we are. Not a bad looking airplane. This is not a bad looking plane at all. This is not a bad looking plane at all, ladies and gents. Look at that. That's a pretty good plane. Pretty good looking plane. All right, now let's add the motor. All right, we're back. Now let's go ahead and let's install the motor onto the firewall. Let's install the motor mount onto the firewall. So the first thing we do is we have our motor here already with our prop attached with a rubber band. This is called the prop saver rubber band assembly. All right, what do we got? We got our prop, and on the back of it is a motor mount. This round collar is the motor mount. Now you take an Allen wrench, all right? Do you see those little circles? Those are Allen screws. You take your Allen wrench, you stick it in there, and you go ahead and twist counterclockwise, and you loosen the bolt. Go ahead and loosen the bolt, and you go ahead and you drop that. All right, so you loosen that, and you go ahead and you pull the motor right out of the firewall. So you got your firewall, right? Now, you take your plane, you take your there's the plywood firewall, and you line up the best way you can with your eyes the firewall with the center of the plane, the exact center of the center of the firewall, the best that you can eyeball it. If you want to pre-measure it and do all that crap, you can do that. That's not a big deal. Go ahead and do that. That's cool. Not a problem. And then you go ahead and you take a pen and what I do is I trace a circle that the firewall is going to sit in, and then there, I'm good there. Then what I do is I come in with a drill, and I go ahead and have my Dremel, and I drill my first guide hole straight through. There we are. Alright, so I want to drill my mount holes, my holes to line up the motor mount with the firewall. So I got my first hole through. Okay, take my Dremel, send my first hole in. There we are. Now, what I like to do is I'll go ahead and just mount that up, and then I'll take a small screw and eventually find the right screw. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start mounting the firewall, or mounting the engine mount to the firewall. Got to start running my screws in. Like so. There we are. First screw is in. Easy stuff. Very, very simple. And I go ahead and use that first screw as my guide to start adding in my other screw holes. So I go ahead and line that up. And screw that into place, like so. You just screw those in the best you can, nice and tight. There we are. Make sure they're all tight with the firewall. And everything is flush up against there. Let's get the last one in. There we are. You can use a power drill if you want to do this, no big deal. Just sometimes you can get a little bit more of a precise touch when you do it that way. So let's go ahead and add the motor. Now, when you put the motor back on, you want to make sure that your wires are going straight down. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pre-insert the wires up through the firewall here. I got a hole in the bottom, and I just push my motor wires right up through there. Let's open that up a little bit with a knife. There we go. Let's get that a little bit more. There we are. Let's just get that. Let's get that hole a little bit bigger. And we just go ahead and push our wires up through there like so. Because you'll see why I'm doing that later. Because we can use the natural hollowness of this fuselage of the Pool Noodle as a as the internal, like a place to carry the electronics. So you make sure that the wire bundle is going straight down. Alright, so our engine is now mounted, okay? We have the engine mounted to the firewall, as you can see. That's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want. Now, yesterday was the 4th of July here in the United States. Today's the 5th of July, and people are still setting off their fireworks. So if you hear bangs and booms, that's what's going on. So, what we want to do right now is we're going to go ahead and make our landing gear. Here are our wheels. These are about 2.5 inch diameter wheels. We're going to go ahead and make our landing gear for the Demon Claw. Now, I got this piece of Depron, the same material that I used to make the wings. Now what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and make the landing gear. I'm going to show you an ingenious, very easy way to make your own landing gear for any RC airplane. Now, I want this whole setup to be about 5.5 inches long. So I measure that out, 5.5 inches. Alright, now, watch what I'm going to do. I'm doing everything by hand. Everything is handmade. Now I'm going to make a wheel pant that is built into the whole thing. watch this. I take my wheel and I place it about where I want it to be as it's sitting, you know, as the plane, as it sits on the ground. And I place this wheel here, and then I get a general idea of how I want to do this. I position the wheel on the cross of the Depron of where I drew that, and I take my pen and I mark perfectly around the wheel like so. I mark a circle around the wheel, all right? It's very important what I just did. Now what I do is I actually draw the wheel pant. I actually make the wheel pant. Boom. There's the wheel pant. And then make it nice and thick. And there we are. That's the actual wheel pant right there. Alright, that's where it meets the wing. Now let me go ahead and cut it out, and you'll get a better feel for it once I actually cut the damn thing out. You'll understand exactly what I'm doing here once I cut this little baby out. And then you'll really see what I'm up to. Just getting a razor here, getting all this stuff. Okay, so I go ahead and free cut this by my hand, with my own hand. Cutting out the wheel pant by hand, free-handing it. Boom. Take my metal ruler. There we go. And I go ahead and cut. There we are. And go ahead and cut again. Boom. And here's my wheel pant. Look at that. Coming right out of the foam. Look at that. Perfect. Perfect. Look at that. And then what I do is I come in with my razor and I just cut along that circle. Cut along that circle. There we are. Then the wheel fits. The wheel fits right up inside the wheel pant. See? Now let me show you the biggest trick I'm ever going to show you. Possibly the biggest thing you're ever going to see. This is big. Now, of course, how am I going to fit that to that? How am I going to get the wheel to fit to the wheel pant? Well, watch. I got my wire here, right? Got a metal wire. Steel wire, right? Steel wire. Very important. I'm going to show you a magic trick. I'm going to show you something that you're going to be telling your children about. Watch this. I'm going to show you how to make your own landing gear for any airplane. Watch. Take my metal wire. I gauge out how long in distance I need from the wheel hole to the top here. The wheel hole to there. This is very important what I'm about to show you. I measure it out. I measure it out. I need 5 inches. So what I do is I take 5 inches of this wire. 5 inches. Go to the 5-inch mark, right? I go to the 5-inch mark and I go ahead and I take a plier and I squeeze it and hold it right there. And then what I do is I go ahead and I bend it with another wire. With another wire, I bend it like that, like an L. All right, now what I do is I take this wheel and I stick it down the wire, just like that. Okay, do you see what I just did? This is very, very important. Watch. Then what I do is I basically bend the wire back down itself again by taking the plier, holding it here, and I bend the wire right back down itself again. It's not as easy as it looks, and it's actually kind of hard in many ways, but you gotta finesse it. You gotta finesse that wire best you can. 2 pliers is probably the best thing to do. You get 2 relatively thin pliers and you hold it there like that, and you hold it and you just bend this sucker. You bend it back into itself like that, and see what you get? There you go. Got a landing gear. You got a landing gear. Now, it's not exactly perfect, but let me tell you something, folks. What you do is you slide that up there like that. You slide that up your wheel pant, and there you go. You got yourself a landing gear. You see? Look, got a landing gear. Now you're going to epoxy it so that it's perfectly stuck right there, you know, right there at that point. And you can bend the wires closer together. You can kind of smash them together a little bit with a plier so that they're a little bit more you can kind of squeeze them together a little bit more. There we go. There we are. And then you snip the wire again. You snip it right up there. You cut it. Get your wire cutter and you cut that sucker right there. Oh, it's thick. This is tough steel. Man, that is tough steel, y'all. Wow. Woo! That is tough. And then you go ahead and then you epoxy it straight to that. You epoxy the wire right onto the foam, and guys, you got a landing gear. You got a hole. You got a gear, kit and caboodle. Now, before you do that, you want another one of these, so you copy it. You want another one of these, so you're going to copy it exactly. You take your foam, take your original wheel pant, place it over the foam. All right, place it over the foam and trace it. Just trace it with your pen. Trace it like that. Take your pen and just make an exact copy into another piece of foam, so you can go ahead and make your right or left wheel pant, so you can have an exact copy. And just there you go. Cut that sucker out, and there you go. Let's go ahead and cut that out. Our metal ruler. Let's get our X-Acto knife. Be careful of your fingers. And let's freehand that sucker right out of there. Boom. Boom. Let's go ahead and draw a line across for alignment. So there we are. When we add this to the wing, you're going to see, oh man, this is going to be beautiful. This is going to be beautiful. Right there. Let's go ahead and do this. Boom! Cutting it out all over again. Just copy what you did originally and go ahead and cut out your wheel well hole for the wheel. And cut that. Boom! There you go. You got your right and left wheel pant. See that? Is that cool or what? Man, I'm loving this. This is perfect. As Hannibal says, Smith always says, I love it when a plane comes together. All right, let's keep rocking, y'all. Let's keep rocking. Let's go ahead and mix up some epoxy and let's get down to business. Let's get down to business here. Now, in order to hold this whole thing together, I don't think I need to do that. I was going to hit it with some hot glue, but I don't want to mess up the landing gear, the foam of the wheel well, because sometimes the hot glue just, it's so hot it actually destroys the foam. So you got to be real careful how you use it and when you use it. So let's go ahead and let's go put, we're going to add the wire to here. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and add the wire. We're epoxying the wire right to the wheel well. I mean to the wheel leg, the landing gear leg. We're epoxying it straight to it. Right onto there. Right on there. Just like that. Right? Right onto there. And that helps the wire stay connected to the wheel well. And we want the wheel to go perfectly straight. You know what the hell? Let's go ahead and let's bring in the hot glue. What the hell? I want something to help that stick anyway. Very little amounts, just little dab there. Little dab there and there, and a little dab there and there. Boom, boom, boom. See what I'm doing? I want that wire to hold, and also I want to make sure that that tire is straight. That tire's got to be straight. If the wheel isn't straight, remember, if the wheel is not straight, you're going to be in big trouble. You've got to make sure your wheel is straight. If that wheel isn't straight, man, you're going to be in a world of hurt, because you've just defeated your purpose. You've got to make sure that your wheels are straight, so when you align it onto the airplane, everything is straight how it needs to be. And if it isn't straight, then you're going to be your plane isn't going to track straight. It's going to track crooked, and you don't want that. So you want the wheel to be completely straight with the wheel pant. You understand? Does that make sense? Got to make sure the wheel is straight with the wheel pant, because if it isn't, again, it's just, you've just wasted a lot of your time, and you really don't want to be doing that. When you're building these kind of planes and you're doing all this kind of stuff, shit. When you're doing, burn myself. When you're doing this kind of stuff, you don't want to repeat yourself, and you don't want to burn your hands like I just did. But you want to work smart. You just want to work smart. You want to prevent as much stupidity as humanly possible. You want to save yourself redundancy in work. You don't want to copy yourself. You don't want to see, right now this hot glue is really not, it's not setting very quickly. And sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes your hot glue is just not going to set. You got to keep your finger on this for a while and just let that set. Got to keep your finger on that wire to let it hold. All right, folks. What I'm about to do is huge. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make the notch that the landing gear are going to slip up into on the wing. I've got my landing gear support truss in place, and I got a freaking. All right, we're back. Now I got my landing gear support truss in place, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add in my landing gear. That's what we're going to do. There we go. We cut that notch out. So we're cutting the notches out that the landing gear is going to ride down into. cut those 2 notches out. One of the things you want to avoid is trying to, is getting a perpetually messy workplace as you go on. Unfortunately, things start to get a little messy. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the landing gear, because this is going to notch into that. See that notch? See the notch we just made? The landing gear is going to slide down into that notch. If that makes sense to you. I hope it makes sense to you. Alright, let's go ahead and let's add these landing gears to the wing. So I'm cutting my notch out. There we go. See that? Look. Notch is cut out. And that fits right into there. Just like that. See that? Look at that, man. Isn't that beautiful? Nice and gentle, nice and easy. There we go. Just flush with the whole kit and caboodle. There we go. Look at that. Man, I couldn't ask for a better fitting. That's beautiful. That's perfect. That's just, I'm loving it. Awesome. Okay, well, before I go ahead and do the other one, I'm going to hard epoxy the wing straight into the to the fuse. All right, let's do that right now. Let's make up a good amount of epoxy, and let's hard attach the wing to the actual fuse. Let's get that out of the way, because we can't slide. Apparently, obviously we can't slide the other landing gear. Put the landing gear on now and then slide the wing on, can we? We can't. So we have to we got to slide the wing through first. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and hard attach this sucker. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'll slide the wing through. There we are. Okay, now let's add our epoxy. Let's go ahead and add the epoxy. Let's get this wing mounted. I'm putting the epoxy down into the crack between the wing and the fuselage, where when you add it right near the aileron, make sure that you don't get the aileron like I just did, because then you're screwed, because now you gotta uncut the aileron from the thing, and then you don't want that. That's no good. Okay, let's get the other side. Now what you want to do is you want to ride the epoxy up inside the noodle. You want to get up into that crevice pretty good. You want to get in there the best you can, and then do it on the flip side, obviously. And just ride your epoxy down into that crack. And just push that brush down in there, because you're getting. What you're doing is very important, because this is what's going to keep the wing on the noodle. Because if you don't do this, your wing is going to shift in flight, and you're going to be in a world of hurt. Unless you want that to happen. If that's what you want, then you know. Go ahead and stick that in there. This is all on the fly, man. I built the sucker and designed it all on the fly right in front of you. This is easier than you think. It really is. A lot of you guys don't know where to start in scratch building. Well, I want this to be the start for you. I want this to be the start. I want the demon claw to basically be your inroad into this hobby. Because if you do it right, and you start scratch building right, you can really have a lot of fun. Alright, Demon Driver back here again. And now what we're going to do is we got our landing gear on. Okay, we got the gears on. Got them into the wing. I'm going to show you a reinforcement trick to make sure that they're reinforced, because they'll have a tendency to bend and twist as the plane lands. So we're going to have to alleviate that. Alright, now, servos. This is the next big step. Now we've got the Hextronic 900 and the Hextronic 500 size servo. The 500 I'm going to use for the actual rudder, and the 900 series I'm going to use for the elevator and ailerons. So let's go ahead and let's start to mount these servos to the Demon Claw, to the Noodle, which is the fuselage. And let's go ahead and take the first one, and let's go ahead and situate it. Now, I'm going to, for just ease of everything, I'm going to run all the servos outside the plane to make life easier for me, and to make things a little bit clearer for you, so that everything is a little bit easier to see and easier to understand. Okay, let's go ahead and let's mark off where we want the servo to go. Now, one thing to remember is that when the servo goes in, you want to give it enough room so that the servo arm can either go down or up. So we want to place the servo right about here. We don't want it too far back because that's throwing too much weight to the rear. So we'll place the servo right about there. We take our marker and we mark off the spot where the servo is going to go. We get a general idea how big the servo, how big the servo is, so how big the hole we want it to be. Now, I want to show you an old trick, and we can use, believe it or not, we can use our heat gun. We can use our hot glue gun for this, because we can mount the servo. We can mount the servo using a hot glue gun. We don't need to drill it or anything. And the disadvantage is you can't, it's harder to remove the servo if it burns out or anything, but you can just pull it back out and then re-hot glue. Alright, let's go ahead and let's dig out the servo hole or the servo notch, and we're going to just take a regular razor and just start cutting right into the to the noodle. Cut straight down and in. Go ahead, cut that in like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in on angles and just kind of dig the hole out. And take the foam out with the knife. You don't want to go too big of a hole, because then the servo is going to have play and you don't want that. That's the last thing you want. I'll do it in front of you here. See, you just dig it out with your knife. Not a big deal. Alright, let's go ahead and see how that'll fit. Yeah, fits beautifully. See? That's how you do that. Now what you do is you lift it up a little bit. You lift up the servo a little bit off the surface like that, right? Then you come in with your hot glue gun. Come in with your hot glue gun and lay a bead right on either other side of the tab like that, and lay a bead on the other side of the tab, and then you push the servo down, straight down into the, there you go, just like that. See, you press the servo right down into the just like that. Let's put a little like that. And that's how you mount the servos. That's how you mount your elevator servo. It's really that easy. And the arm goes right there, and then we'll have a control horn right here, and that'll be the up and down. Like that. And then you do the same thing with the other side. Do the same exact thing. Take your razor. Take your razor. Cut. Make the hole a little bit bigger. It's too small. There we go. We'll just pop that one in. Just like that. Go ahead and take our hot glue gun. Go ahead and hot glue that sucker right into place. Make sure you don't get any hot glue on the actual servo horn or the servo spinner, because then you'll. But see, look, watch. See, they move opposite each other, and that's exactly what I want. See, oh, cool. I'm go ahead and disconnect the ailerons. There we are. They're disconnected. And let's go ahead and add the rudder. Let's add the rudder servo. Let's get that in there. You got the HX 500, the smaller servo. This is the smallest of the two of the HX. You got the 500 and you got the 900. 900 is the ailerons in the elevator, and the little baby 500 we'll use for the rudder. So we go ahead and we mark off. We go ahead and mark off where we want that servo to go, just like that, right in the back with the marker. We go ahead and mark that off. Take our knife. Do exactly what we did before. We just mark off a little spot for the servo to go into. Just like that. Pick out that foam, like so. Rip out the foam. Be mindful of your hands. Check that out. And just pop that sucker right in there. Just like that. There's our rudder servo. There we are. Take our hot glue gun and just run it right in there. There we are. There's our rudder servo. So all servos are now connected. All of our servos are now connected, or are now installed. aileron, elevator, rudder. Now, as we connect everything in, I'm going to show you how to connect everything in and how to lay. I want to lay the servo wires on the outside of the plane, but on the Pool Noodle, you got an inside channel. So if you want to, you can run all your servo wires on the inside. Very easy, and it's very possible you can do that, no big deal. Now, next step is adding the compartment for our speed controller and our battery. So what we do is we cut away a whole area right here, like this, right in there. We mark it off with a marker. Mark it off with a marker. And we do exactly what we did before. We come in with a knife, like we did with the servos, but we're going to cut away a whole area for the speed controller and battery to go, and the receiver. Just cut that away. Cut that away. We're just going to rip that out. And that carbon fiber rod is keeping everything together. Even though we're tearing up a good chunk of this noodle, that carbon fiber rod is keeping everything together. So watch. So see what I did? I cut open a channel. I cut open a groove. And what's going to fit there is the speed controller. Speed controller, the receiver, and the battery. See? That's where the speed controller is going to go. 20 amp speed controller. So let's go ahead and pull the 3 motor wires out. Let's go ahead and connect them up to the speed controller. Okay, this is Demon Driver back again here with the Demon Claw. Now, what I'm about to do is very important, and I'm going to show you something that is a nice trick when you are connecting your servo horn and your servo control rod. There's a little part that makes life real easy. Do you see that? That's called an easy connector. Right there, made by Depron. Now let me show you what an easy connector is and what it does. Now many of you obviously are yawning right now because you know what it is. All right. These are easy connectors made by Depron. And what it mainly consists of is a brass, I think this is brass, collet or collar, main portion, the main piece, okay? And what happens is your metal control rod, your metal servo rod that goes through this hole, fits through like that. Then there is a screw on top, little screw with an Allen head, and the little screw screws down into it upon and down onto the control rod, tightening the control rod. And here is an example. Now the advantage of this is that you can loosen the control rod. Okay, you can loosen this and you can move the servo control rod and arm through the collet adapter, through the easy connector, and that just makes life a lot easier in fine-tuning your the control rod, the control rod and everything, and the control servo horn and all that. It just makes life that much easier. Now, let's get in close to this action, and let me show you how I apply this part to your servo. Alright, now let's go ahead and apply this easy connector to this servo right here. Now watch. You take your control rod, and well, the first thing you want to do, obviously, is you want to place the speed connector through and into the servo arm, okay? We place that in, and then we take the retainer and we place that on the other side of the easy connector, so that way it holds in place and that keeps it secure. Alright, the next step is, well, I'm going to actually Dremel out this hole on this servo horn a little bit. This is the control horn that fits on the control surface. Make that a little wider for the actual servo to connect to the control rod horn to connect into. Okay, it's not wide enough, so we got to make it a little bit wider. Okay, done. So we go ahead and slide that in, open it up with your finger, and we pop that sucker right in there. Some cases you may want to put a rubber band around that rubber, but that's just overkill for this situation. We don't need to do that. You can if you want to. I'm choosing not to. So we go ahead and we just there we go. We just punch that right on through there like so. There we are. Now it's connected into the aileron. Let's go ahead and tighten that. And there we are. We got two ailerons hooked up. Now, here is where the servo, this is where the easy connectors come into their own. Let me show you what I'm about to do. Hey, this Demon Driver here. Now the next big step of what I need to do is to mix all of the different control surfaces to make sure that they are working properly and they're properly aligned. So, how do I do that? I go ahead and I take all of my servo connectors. This is my aileron connector. I'm going to put an A right on there. There used to be a T there because it was from an old throttle connector, but there, now it's A, so that means aileron. So what we're going to do is test the ailerons first. Now this is where the easy connectors come in handy. Power up our radio. There we are. Radio is powered up. Always keep your throttle down even though you don't have it connected. That's fine. Let's go ahead and let's power up our receiver. And of course we need to find the receiver. There it is. Okay. Receiver found. Let's go ahead and let's pop in the receiver. Receiver on. We got a green light. It means we have a bond. Or we got a link. We got a data link between the two. They're bonded. They're good. A. Aileron. Alright, they're a little goofy. The aileron is a little bit off the mark. So we got to straighten that out right now. Here's how we're going to do that. Let's go ahead and straighten those out. Let's loosen up the the connectors. Let's loosen them up. There we are. Let's get those nice and loose. Loosey-goosey. And let's make sure that they're perfectly straight and they're aligned perfectly so that we're not getting any kind of, we don't want that. We want them to be perfectly straight. Perfectly straight. Alright? Only way to do it. Alright, let's go ahead and let's move these around. Let's make sure that these ailerons move properly. And they're both actuated properly. That's exactly what I want to see. Those are good. Those are good to go. Very nice. I like that. Very nice. It's exactly what I want. See? Right turn, left turn. Perfect. Excellent. Now, let's move on to the elevator. Let's make sure the elevator works properly. I gotta get a servo extension for that. Let's grab the servo extension. Get a little servo extension. There we go, because we need to get this servo going down there. A little junk of tape on that from this servo extension. Been used a couple of times. That's okay. We get a little bit of tape. And we just snip some of that tape off, that old tape. That was what I call marker tape to mark what the servo is, what that particular connector is. So we take this servo and we go ahead into our RX, into our receiver, and we tie it into channel 2 because this becomes the elevator. See? Elevator. There we are. Now let's make sure that this is working properly. Let's get it straightened out like we did with the ailerons. Let's make sure that this is straight, up and down. All right, let's do that. Let's make sure that things are nice and where they're supposed to be. There we are. Okay, let's test. All right, we're loose. We're loose. We're not working on that. It's not working. All right. We're gonna have to reset the servo arm on the servo. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Got to reset that so that the servo is perfectly horizontal so we get a full throw. All right, let's get that. Let's tighten that down. Let's tighten that control horn down. That easy connector rod. Let's get that down there because right now it's not doing what it's supposed to do. There we go. Oh, we got a problem. We got a problem, Houston. I gotta get a new screw. Let's get a new screw in there. Fresh screw. There's a fresh screw. Okay. Now let's continue that. Let's continue. All right, here we go. Make sure that's straight. Make sure the elevator's straight. And let's get that. There we go. There we are. Now let's go ahead and let's have a look at that. Up, down, up, down. Perfect. That's a big control throw right there. Woo, baby. Up, down. And it centers perfectly. That's what I want. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so now we got ailerons, elevator. Now, rudder. Rudder is the next big step here, ladies and gents. The rudder. Can't do this without the rudder. Ain't gonna work. Can't have a 3D airplane without the rudder. So, go ahead and take another servo extension. Oh, some of these servo extensions have been used. Gotta make sure that they work, and of course, when you hook it all up, it's a very fast way to find out if it works or not. Let's hook that in. There we go. And let's put into channel 4. This is the rudder. This is the rudder. Channel 4. Ah, there we go. Beautiful. A little bit off. A little bit off the mark. Okay, let's straighten that out. There we go, Chris. Oh yeah. Nice. Let's bring that back in alignment. Boom. Look at that. We got everything. We got everything working now, baby. Check this out. Let's make sure the rudder's going in the right direction. It is. Look. Rudder. elevator, ailerons. We got the whole kit and caboodle here. Everything is now hooked up except the speed controller and the motor. This is the next step. This is the next domino that's got to fall in order to make this whole thing work. Okay? Now this is just a test to make sure everything works. Now, what we do is we take this. We take the servo connector, the servo lead out of the speed controller. Alright? Do this very gently. Notice I use a foam mat to put everything on top of so I don't scratch up and damage the airplane. So I go ahead and take this servo connector and I make the final connection to the plane. Make sure my throttle is all the way back. And I take this and I put this into, take the power out first. I take my power out first. Take the power out of your receiver. You don't want the power on. Alright, don't need the power on, don't want the power on, so let's go ahead and put that into channel 3. There we are. Hook that in. We're good. Now, this is the big step now. The main power from a battery into the actual speed controller. Take our battery, and we hook it in. Beep beep beep. Okay, we got our beep. Let's see if we'll get power right off the bat. Let's see if we'll get power right off the bat. Here we go. Give it some very slight throttle. Ooh. Perfect. It's spinning in the right direction. Perfectamundo. We got perfection. We got an aircraft with flight controls. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. We are good to go. We got a ship ready to fly. Nice. I'm very impressed. Next step will be the CG and balancing of the Demon Claw on its center of gravity, which is just a little bit of the carbon fiber rod that runs through everything. So the next step, of course, when you're not doing anything with power, disconnect your battery, just like that. Disconnect the battery. There we are. Kill the power. Now you can shut off the radio. Now, some glaring problem that I've noticed that you may run into when you make your landing gears in this style is what has already happened. And we have to strengthen, we're going to have to strengthen the landing gear. Okay? What we have to do is strengthen the landing gear ever so slightly, because right now I'm not satisfied with their strength, their rigidity, because they really don't have any. They're too flimsy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a solution to that. And this is where carbon fiber cloth comes into its own. This is about 10 ounce, maybe 8 to 10 ounce cloth right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a couple of squares of cloth, all right? And one is going to go on one side of the landing gear root where the landing gear meets the wing. And the other side, the other one is going to go on the other side. They're going to fit in like this. They're going to fit like that. And I'm going to laminate, I'm going to connect the landing gear stem with the wing. And I'm going to use the carbon fiber, the cloth, I'm going to use the fiberglass cloth as a bridge, as a structural bridge connecting the wing to the landing gear stem, just like that. And then when that dries, it's going to be tough. It's going to be the rigidity that I need to ensure that the landing gear are not going to break off every time I land, because that would be very irritating. That would be incredibly irritating. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to laminate with fiberglass the landing gear to the wing to make sure that they're more structurally rigid. I get some 5-minute epoxy. I'm going to mix some up right now. I'm going to mix some up. Go, mix up a little bit, about maybe a tablespoon's worth. Mix it up. Now you see the mess on this table. This is unavoidable. Don't be, let me tell you something. Don't be anal about making a mess. I don't care what your wife says, your girlfriend, I don't care. Just throw her some money, tell her to go shopping or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just do this down the basement, do this in your man cave. Look, you're going to make a mess, it is what it is. Don't worry about it. You'll spend more time worrying about making a mess than you will making the airplane. Alright. We put a little bit of, I'm taking the epoxy and I'm laminating. I gotta get you in closer, because if you can't see this, what's the point? Let me get you closer. Alright, watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this fiberglass cloth, and I just placed it in there, in between the joint of the landing gear and where the landing gear and the wing meets. Okay, and any excess driver here, I had to go back and add this bit into the video because I've already maidened the Demon Claw, and as you can see, the landing gear a little roughed up from some rough landings. But what I need to show you is basically how you determine your CG. Now, on this plane, the CG is roughly about 3/4 of an inch forward of this carbon fiber rod. Alright, usually your CG is anywhere from 1.5 to 2/3 the wing chord of your wing. This wing is 9 inches, the wing chord or depth of the wing is 9 inches, so the CG is right around the 3.5 to 3 3/4 inch mark. Right there. So what you do is you determine your CG and you take your 2 fingers like a balancing point, kind of like a fork. And you take your 2 fingers and you just balance her right on the CG. Right here, she's perfect. She's zeroed, exactly where she wants to be. Now, when you're determining it, what you need to do is you need to take the goodies, your receiver, your speed control, and your battery, and you need to move them around to find the proper position for them to be located in order to obtain your CG. In this case, everything is far forward up near the firewall. In some cases, you have to move them further back. But when you get a plane that when you balance it on your fingers on the CG and she's balanced dead center, you're right where you want to be. That's how you determine your CG for this plane. Okay? That's how you do it. It's really easy, but you must get the CG balanced properly. If she's nose heavy, she's going to have problems pulling up, and she's always going to want to descend and dive when she's flying. If she's tail heavy, she's going to always porpoise, and she's going to be a stall risk. Okay, she's always going to want to stall, and you're going to have to give down elevator to clean her up. So you want her to be zeroed, horizontal, when you got it balanced. That's when you know she's balanced, and that's how you get your CG. I had to go back and add this into this video before I maiden it, so you guys see in the build. That's how you, the final step is you get that baby CG'd perfectly, and you can't lose. Okay? Alright, now off to the maiden. Let's go fly this sucker. Well, this plane's already flown. I had the power of a time machine, and I went back in time. No, I didn't. No, it's already flown, so go watch the video, enjoy. Demon driver, let's go ahead and maiden the Demon Claw. Let's get in the air. I'm out here at abandoned, I'm out here in Somerville in an abandoned shopping mall. So let's put this thing in the air and let's see how she handles, okay? All right, come on. That's not a bad first flight. Wow. That's a big difference in power there, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. That battery makes a big difference. Let's get her back in this way, Chris. Man, that battery made a big difference. Wow. She flies pretty good. Oh, there goes the power. Well, that power went out real fast, but man, she flies like a dream, I have to admit. She flies really impressively. Well, this is Driver, and this was the maiden flight of the Demon Claw. So you watched the video, and now you can get building, so there's no excuse. Easy plane to build using a foam noodle, and you can build your own 3D airplane. Flies like a dream. It's even better hand launched, but you can fly it off the ground or hand launching it. So this is Demon Driver. God bless. Enjoy the video. Don't watch just to watch the maiden. Build the plane and then fly your own. Make your own, fly your own, okay? This is Demon Driver. Take care. Thank you for watching.